Hello and good afternoon friends, welcome to the CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know that in our previous session we talked about big data. What is big data? We have tried to understand about this very concept, very important topic I would say, because big data is a term which you might have heard or which you might not have heard, but while handling with your data on the computer sometimes you might have found some problem. So dear friends, I would say that we would be continuing from our previous session on big data and would be understanding more about big data. And for this discussion we have again with us in our studios Dr. U.S. Pandey. Dr. U.S. Pandey is Associate Professor in School of Open Learning. Here he is teaching in the Department of Computer Sciences. Dear friends, he has immense experience in this field and I hope that this session is going to be one of the finest sessions as he gives suitable examples to you so that it becomes easier for you to understand a particular topic. So we are back again with a discussion on big data and I would like to welcome our guest Dr. U.S. Pandey. Dr. Pandey, welcome to the EduSet lecture.
Thank you. As we have discussed in the previous lecture about the big data concept, 3 V's, the velocity, the volume and other things about that. Even what is the use of the big data concept in today's environment. Every part of life where the big data is in use. We have discussed the things, how the things are going to be utilized in the care of health care, in the general society, in the field of insurance, in the field of e-commerce, in the field, every field of the government activities. Now you can see how the big data concept which have been conceptualized in today's environment, the different kind of computer networks, what are their limitations, how the big data is going to be helpful in all those questions. So you can see here the limitations of the current networks. As you know, here the computer server is there, wireless controller, NAS, the network area storage capacities are going to be there, how the distribution is taking place, internet is there, router you have going to use it, UTM and firewalls are being here, the PSTN trunks, the PRI lines are going to be there, and internet protocol and IP telephony server. You imagine the complications, the limitations of the current network which you can see here, the PCs are going to be attached, the different soft phones are going to be there, the distribution of switches, you just imagine how the edge of switches, wireless access points are going to be there, IP phone, scanner and even so many other devices are going to be there. Now you can see how, what are the limitations of this current network is going to be there. Now different switches have been utilized for this purpose, so that the network which is going more complicated like that, you can see the limitations of the current network, old ways to configure a network. As you know, in this way what will happen, how the things are going to be organized like this. The operating system, different specified the packs, forwarding hardware and different kind of old ways of the network system works like this. Now an OS for network, an operating system for the networks towards an operating system for network. You know the protocols, different protocols which have been added here together. Control by a forwarding interface, network operating system, global network view, control programs, and here you can see that software defined networking, that is SDN, is going to be the operating system of the network. Some of the challenges, rather we call major challenges in the big data. Big data integration is multidisciplinary. as we have discussed earlier also, that the big data inputs are of the different kind natures are going to be there. Less than 10% of big data word are genuinely relational. Meaningful data integration in the real, messy, schemaless and complex. Big data word of database and semantic web using multidisciplinary and multi-technology method. The billion triple challenges. Web of data contained 31 billion RDBF triples. That 446 millions of them are RDBF skills. 13 billion government data, 6 billion geographic data, 4.6 billion publication and media data, 3 billion life sciences data, BTC 2000 and syndicates. Imagine these are the data which we have just replicated in some way. The major big challenges which is going to be there is like that a large amount of data is going to be there. Other challenges are the linked open data reaper, mapping, ranking, visualization, key matching, snapness. Demonstrate the value of semantics. Let data integration drive DBMS technology. Large volumes of heterogeneous data like linked data and RDBF. The challenges, as we have just mentioned, that in the case of big data, a big challenge things are coming. Very large volume of data, high through output, heterogeneity. Now, you see how to transfer big data, relating and linking, the complexity. Imagine, as we have just discussed, a large volume of data need to be utilized in a proper manner, need to be transformed in a proper way, and related all activity have to be done properly. Other aspects of the big data. 6 provocations for the big data is: number 1, automating research changes the definition of knowledge. Claim to objectivity and accuracy are misleading. The bigger data are not always better data. Not all data are equivalent. Just because it is accessible does not make it ethical. Limited access to big data creates new digital divides. As we have discussed in the detail, the utilization of big data is going to be there, but keeping all these things are also going to be taken into mind. For example, as you know, sometimes some kind of misleading informations are being put there on the social networking sites, all the websites which are not very much authentic, but it may create problems. As already you know, sometimes unethical activities are also being there. So, in the big data environment, as it is very much kind of real, the automatic research changes for the definition of knowledge is going to be there. The claim of objectivity and accuracy are really misleading. Sometimes immediately anybody can claim something different what actually it is there. The moment you try to justify, it is already the information have been very widely spread. Not only there, even some kind of misleading information by the time you control it, it can harm many activities. So, although there are a lot of good things, but these kind of creations are going to be there. And already you know that not all data are equivalent in nature also or otherwise also. Just because it is accessible easily, it is not going to be called very much ethical. So, what is happening, there are a lot of activities, lot of problems are also going to be faced utilizing when you are interacting in the area of the big data concept. The other aspects of the big data is going to be there. You can see here the 5 big questions about the big data. What happens in a world of radical transparency with data widely available? If you could test all your decisions, how would that change the way you compete? How would your business change if you use big data for widespread, real-time customization? How can big data augment or even replace management? Could you create a new business model based on the data? Now, these are the very important questions related to the big data. You may agree or you may not agree with all those kind of things. On one side, we can say that the utilizing the big data concept, we can change entire thing, or we can take certain important decision which is going to be help even in the field of society or business or other things. But on the second hand, the other aspects are going to be like this, as we have just, these questions are also relevant. Take example, if in an industry some kind of problem is persisting, seeing the data, the real data or the big data concept, you are just going to take a decision which will not comply with the rules or the regulations of the industry, or in other words, you can call with the management. How much fruitful this kind of decisions are going to be there? It is again a questionable kind of thing. In the same way, there are many situations where you can say based on this you do certain things. As already you know, now utilizing the big data, some kind of things are manipulating, especially in this electronic age. You may be knowing if some kind of surveys are going to be there based electronically, or you can see you are seeing in some TV programs or some other where the mobile phones or other instruments are being used to utilize all these kind of favor or the activities taking place. You will be knowing these kind of things can be manipulated, and this kind of news have been there that the industry people or the people who are sitting there, they are manipulating the things by electronically using some software or making some kind of fake people's fake identity to do all these kind of things. So, as we have just discussed, although the big data is a very important thing, but some kind of unethical activity or even sometimes the decision based on this kind of data analysis or data mining or of the big data concept could not be up to the mark. So, these kind of the other aspects of big data is going to be there, which is questionable. You can put it that a lot of things may be good or may not be good. The other aspects of the big data, as we have just discussed, you can see the other part of the data, how the things are going to be manipulated. Now, you can see the platform for a large scale data analysis, the implementation of the big data, as we have just discussed, that the parallel DBMS technologies, the proposed in late 80s, matured over the last 2 decades. The multi-billion-dollar industry, proprietary DBMS engines intended as data warehousing solutions for very large enterprises. Now, MapReduce, pioneered by the Google, popularized by the Yahoo, that we say Hadoop. So, imagine this kind of big data concepts are going to be there. Now, you can see the comparison between the MapReduce and the parallel DBMS technology, the implementation of the big data, overview, the data parallel programming model, and associated parallel and distributed implementation for the commodity cluster, pioneered by the Google, as we have just mentioned, processes 20 petabyte of data per day, popularized by open source Hadoop, used by Yahoo or other social sites, Amazon, and its list is growing on all. What is happening in the case of parallel DBMS technology? As we have just discussed, popularly used for more than 2 decades. Research projects, Gamma, Grace and all, commercial multi-billion-dollar industry, but access to only a privileged few. Relational data model, indexing, familiar SQL interface, advanced query optimization, well understood and studied. You understand, lot of things we talk about the MapReduce and the parallel DBMS technologies. Many other big data softwares are still in the market. We will discuss these things in detail in the later part of this lecture series. As we have just mentioned, this is open source software of this Hadoop or other softwares are also going to be there, which is entirely different than the traditional activity which is happening till now. But the things, the need of the society, the need of the environment, the need of the computer industry, or you can say the need of the whole database environment is entirely different now. And as we know that what will happen to the tomorrow, the future, where a very large amount of data need to be stored, need to be capitalized, need to be mapping, doing, storing, managing. And that data is also not in one form, that is not only text, it could be multi-dimensional, maybe text also, it could be video also, it could be audio also, it could be mix also. So, these are the things which will happen in this case. Now, imagine that by doing this, you can do lot of other activities are going to be there. So, big challenges are going to be there which you can do here in this form. Now, you can see here the implementation of big data, that is MapReduce. You see here the raw input key value, the map. Here you can see that the KU1 and this you can get it like this. So, how this kind of things are being utilized? The implementation of big data, the MapReduce environment, the advantages are going to be like this: automatic parallelization, depending on the size of raw input data, institute multiple map tasks, Similarly, depending upon the number of intermediate key value partitions instate multiple reduced tasks. Imagine the runtime, data partitioning, task scheduling, handling machine failures, managing inter-machine communication, completely transparent to the programmer, analyst, user. You can see here the lot of advantages are going to be there of this MapReduce. As we have mentioned that these kind of activity are taking place on time, whether it is our data partitioning, the task scheduling, and as we have just mentioned, handling machine failures. So, even in the case of any kind of misconduct, these things take care of that. Other thing, the MapReduce versus parallel DBMS. You can see here that the schema report in parallel DBMS is going to be there, not out of the box. Indexing, in this case also the parallel DBMS is providing you in that, but not out of the box here. In the case of programming model, it is a declarative SQL structured query language. In the case of MapReduce, it is imperative C, C++, Java, extensions through Pig and Hive. So, lot of other features are also going to be there. Now, another very important thing, optimizations, compression, query optimization. In the case of parallel DBMS is going to be there, in the case of MapReduce not out of the box. Flexibility, which is another very important feature for implementation, is going to be there. In the case of parallel DBMS not out of the box, in case of MapReduce this feature is going to be there. In the fault tolerance, the course gained techniques are going to be there, but in the case of fault tolerance it is going to be there. What in one word would like to say, there are a lot of flexible features are available in the case of MapReduce. As we have just mentioned, you can use different programming models also and different kind of other techniques which is very flexible in the case of big data concept. Maybe it is not up to that much optimized model, that much kind of compression optimization or query optimization concept is going to be there, but otherwise there are many other good features are available in the case of big data. Moreover, it is much more flexible and you are getting things very much in time. Now, you can see here Zeta-Byte Horizon. As of 2009, the entire World Wide Web was estimated to contain close to 500 exabytes. Now, imagine this is a half zettabyte. Imagine the total amount of global data is expected to grow to 2.7 zettabytes during 2012. This is the 48% up from 211. Now, imagine here you can see if in 2012, if you multiply by 50 by this 2020 wrap up, how much a volume is going to be there. So, just imagine the volume of data which is multiplying every day, and as you are already aware that the big data concepts are being utilized, even you just take the example of your mobile, how much data you are just utilizing per day. Take different kind of social sites, different kind of connecting environment, social networking and all. Every day you are seeing thousands of the file, thousands of the picture, different thousands messages. And not only this, imagine you are sharing thousands of the pictures, movies, videos, different kind of text, as well as different kind of lectures, series, or imagine anything like that. Even you can see the lecture which is going on here, just copy and paste on your any different social site, you can direct it anywhere. The volume of the data, how much it is being used. So, this we are discussing in today's environment. Imagine if very large amount of data, every mobile user, every electronic system is using, or in other words, he is generating a huge amount of data to be stored at different places or different social sites or other sites also. So, imagine how much data is going to be there. Now, another thing you can see that the increasing volume of this data, where lot of the things are going to be there. Now, we live in the age of big data, as we have just discussed that the large volume of data is coming, large volume of data is storing. We live in the age of big data. The big data refers to the acquisition and analysis of massive collection of information. Collections so large that until recently the technology need to analyze them did not exist, and more data fiction. Massive amounts of unstructured messy data, otherwise unnoticed patterns, indiscriminate collection, indefinite retention for unpredictable future uses. As we have just discussed, what will happen tomorrow based on this kind of activity, you can just imagine. We are not talking anything hypothetically. We have just given an example to you. As a mobile user, you can see, or as a computer user, you can just imagine, if you are interacting every day, you can just use or store those data in your computer system. You can imagine how much volume every day the data is being generated by you as a individually. In the same way, as we mentioned, many big organizations are also generating a large amount of data, which we have discussed earlier also. Many research agencies, scientific agencies which are creating large amount of research data which need to be calculated, need to be emphasized, need to be used popularly. So, imagine how these kind of things are being manipulated. Now, massive messy data. The big data analysis requires collecting massive amounts of messy data. The messy data, what is that? The data is not in a uniform format as one would see in traditional databases. It is not annotated, semantically tagged. A technological breakthrough was to find ways to manipulate and analyze such data. The massive amounts think of every tweet ever tweeted. They are all in the Library of Congress. 400 million tweets a day in 2000. As we have just discussed, we have told about all those kind of information. When you are interacting with any kind of social site or any other kind of activity, when you are tweeting but thing, you are talking in some different way, many type of not uniform data is going to be there. It is not only mathematical operation, it is not only textual information. We have just discussed the data can be of any form. When you are writing something, sometimes it is containing only text, sometimes it is containing text with some symbols which you are using for a specific purpose, and that specific purpose must be read by the computer system also regarding your behavioral activity also. So, this kind of softwares are the input data which you are providing to the system is also need to be very meaningful. So, how these kind of textual information, or it is in the form of audio, as we have just discussed, it could be in the form of video, it could be of the mixture of both, or it could be in any, not in a uniform way. In nutshell, we would like to say the data, the input we are utilizing of the different form, there is no uniformity at all. Storing these data, handling these data, and as we have given you an example also, for example, if you just access with your social site or you are doing some kind of activity, suddenly something appear in front of you that 15 days back you have done this thing. Maybe that activity is related with the activity which you are performing today, or you have sent some message to some very loved person and immediately you have got something back to you. What I mean to say is each related activity is being taken care, whether it is in the, again I am putting, whether it is in the form of any text, any letter, any kind of lecture or other activity, or it is kind of any picture which is related to that. Imagine if the computer or the big data need to perform all such kind of activity, recognizing you also as an individual as well as the other persons who is involved, or the organizations are involved, or the other activities are going to be there. So, the important thing is that how these data is being manipulated, how these data is being handled. So, what kind of technology is being used. So, keeping all those things in that kind of activity is a very important feature. So, that becomes a very important activity. Imagine when you are just tweeting something and your tweeting is getting lot of good responses, bad responses, or some kind of thing, other activity. Storing all those activity, putting or informing each and every individual who is going to be linked with that. So much information, so much manipulation, so much handling, putting the things in a order is a great job. Now, you can see the patterns we would not notice. The big data analytics can reveal important patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed. Taking the anti-depressant Paxil together with the anti-cholesterol drug Parvechol could result in a diabetic blood sugar level discovered by, we have just given you example that the different kind of patterns we would not notice. Using asymptotic footprint characteristics of every individuals, the activities are going to be there, you can check it with that. What? Then finding that the footprint in the Bing searches What I mean to say is here, the different patterns of the big data, which is very important, like high blood sugar levels obtained by analyzing 30 years of report in an FDA database. And as we are saying, the finding that the footprint in the Bing searches using an algorithm that detected statistically significant correlations, people taking both drugs also tended to enter search terms fatigue and headache, for example, that constitute the symptomatic footprint. What I mean to say here is that utilizing this big data concept, a lot of research have been done in the medical field also. A huge amount, a large amount of data really gives a clear cut picture about a particular, some example as we have just given. We have also discussed that how the pattern recognition helps detecting the early cancer diseases, and lot of research activity has already been done, especially in the for area of breast cancer or other, where early detection is easily possible. And on these results, analyzing the different kind of pattern, the different kind of patterns earlier which have been stored for so many years, things can be done very easily. We have told you that a lot of research in medical science is going on based on the dependent, how as you see here that just by the footprint, or you can see some of the symptoms, if you are able to understand by utilizing, by measuring the pattern or other activities, many kind of disease can be just see, or you can say we can protect it. So, by utilizing the big data concept, a lot of things can happen, which usually we did not notice earlier, which was not possible without having a large amount of data or analysis of that one. Now, the benefits of the big data, which is another very important thing. The big data analytics can reveal important patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed, as we have just mentioned. Taking the antidepressant Paxil and all different kind of drugs which will happen, which will notice is like that. So, mathematically you are just able to understand the structure of that kind of database easily. Utilizing those kind of database or the analysis of those kind of database techniques, you may be able to get a different kind of analysis about a particular disease. Utilizing this big data concept, as we have mentioned, in every area of medical science, lot of research is being still going on to find out the different patterns or the different symptoms, how things can be utilized. You can see here how the foreign governments voluntary information sharing reporting requirements, the government internal sharings are going to be there, different kind of reportings are going to be there. The external sharing and investigations are going to be there. Institutions are involved in transparency requirements, surveillance being done, privacy and security requirements are going to be there, and investigations are being conducted. The consumers and other seeking services are also being benefited by utilizing the big data, as we have just mentioned, because a very large amount of data is being there. So, even the external, the foreign governments can share a lot of information with our government also. In every area, it could be the area of commerce, It could be the area of surveillance, as we have just mentioned, because here now you can have a large amount of data. You know, we have discussed that the large amount of data is coming, especially in when the earthquake is going to be there, tsunami is there, or other kind of important information which can be shared by the nations which are having a good machines which are generating a huge amount of data related to these kind of activity. So, these kind of information need to be shared among the different countries. Imagine the data is very huge, very large, and in utilizing those data you have to extract the exact information which is relevant for us. You may be knowing through the satellites or the other kind of agencies, we are just collecting a very large amount of data. Those data are being analyzed, and the big data values, the same amount of data need to be shared from outside if required. The other agencies, they just manipulate the data, handle the data, and try to get the exact information which is required. So, what I mean to say is here that big data is playing a very important role in sharing the information, reporting the information, in the case of investigation, in the case of surveillance, in the case of institutional transparency requirement, in the case of privacy and security requirement. Not only this, even the usual public may also get benefited by utilizing these kind of data. As you know, this is going to be a very important factor and very useful things like that in the big data concept.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. The data you have given over here about the big data is very, very important. I hope that all the students who have watched this lecture would be benefited from this lecture. Dear friends, if you have any queries, then you can mail us at info.cc@nic.in. We would love to solve your queries. If you want to have any information or any lecture on particular topic, then also you can mail us. We would be meeting again very soon and would be discussing more on big data. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much.